What's happening, guys? So today I want to talk about sumo deadlifts. More specifically, I want to talk about lockout issues with the sumo deadlift. You guys who've been watching me for a while know that this has been a big issue for me for a very long time, and I've always been really fast off the floor, terrible at lockout. And the advice that most people give you when you have a bad lockout is going to be do rack pulls. You need to learn that motion at the top. You need to get stronger with that lockout portion of the lift, and if you just do rack pulls, it's going to fix everything. You hear it all the time. I can't tell you how many people told me do rack pulls, and I'm here to tell you that most of the time, especially with sumo deadlift, that's not actually good advice, because the problem is not that you're not strong in that portion of the lift. The problem is that you're out of position once you get to that portion of the lift. When you look at a bunch of my lifts where I have failed or I've really struggled with the lockout, you will see that I always get to my knees and I'm not able to lock it out. But you will also see that my knees are locked out first and then I'm unable to complete the lift. That's why I have lockout issues. That's why a lot of other people have lockout issues with sumo deadlifts, is because they're not in the right position. So it's a lot different for conventional deadlifts than it is for sumo deadlifts, because with sumo deadlifts, if you get out of position, your base is spread out and you're left with nothing but your back to do the rest of the lift. But if you're with the conventional deadlift, your base is right directly underneath you, so you're able to kind of fight and struggle and grind a little bit better than you will with a sumo. Sumo, for most people, it should be slow off the floor, easy to lock out. And if you're like me and you're really fast off the floor and you have lockout issues, it means you probably need to slow down the movement. Make sure you're doing everything you can to stay in position so that you don't lock your knees too early and you can actually lock out the lift when it gets to that point. Now the problem becomes, how do we get ourselves to not lock out too early? And how do you stay in position? Now, different cues work for different people. The one that Lane always talks to me about and that he uses all the time is spread the floor. Think about spreading the floor with your feet. And for him that works really well. For me, that just, for some reason, that never really clicked with me, and I could never it just didn't work. I don't know how to explain it, but it didn't seem to do very well for me. Now, one of the big things for me was making sure I slowed down the movement, because if I went too fast, I would never lock it out. And you can actually see, I remember doing my last test cycle and I locked out 495 no problem, and then I went to 515 and I was unable to lock it out. But if you actually look back and put them side by side, you see that the bar actually comes off the floor faster on my 515 that I missed than it did on the 495 that I hit. And the reason I didn't hit it is because I pulled it too fast, I got out of position, my knees locked too early, can't lock it out. This isn't conventional. You're not going to be able to grind on a sumo deadlift. It's very, very, very difficult to do anyways. It's not impossible, but it's much more difficult. So for me, what seemed to work pretty well was thinking about using my external rotators. If I thought about kind of pressing through my heels and the outside of my foot and really using my external rotators hard and then driving my hips through it, that seemed to work a lot better. But I still have to make sure that I'm taking it slow while I do this. Now, that's another thing that Lane's talking to me about, is don't be slow just for the sake of being slow. Be as slow as you need to be while still staying in position. And that was actually really good advice for me, because for a while there I'm like, alright, I'm going way too fast, I'm just going to go as slow as humanly possible, and then that doesn't really work either. So I mean, if you have to go super slow to stay in position, fine, but don't do it just for the sake of being slow. So for me, external rotators, push through the heels and the outer portion of my foot, that has made a huge difference to me, and my lockout has gotten a lot better. Now, I don't have a great lockout still, but it's improved. And you know, one of the things that might be an issue for me is just with my long torso and my kind of shorter arms, it just doesn't, lockout's going to be an issue. It's going to be an issue for me, but I can use everything that I can in my tool belt to use it for my advantage to make it as good as I possibly can. Now, why do rack pulls not do well for people who have lockout issues, especially with sumo? Well, think about it. If you're missing your lift because you're out of position and the bar's out in front of you and your knees are locked too early, what good does a rack pull do? Because when you do a rack pull, you're going to set up an absolutely perfect position. And then you're going to pull the weight and you're going to lock it out and it's going to be no problem. And you think, wow, that's easy, why can't I do that during a normal lift? You're not in that position when you're actually doing the lift. You're in a completely different position that's not in a mechanically advantageous position, and it's completely different. It just won't work. So rack pulls don't necessarily do you good. If you're not in position, you can do all the rack pulls you want and it's not going to do you any good. Alright guys, I hope that helped. Remember, with sumo deadlifts, you generally are going to be more slow off the floor, and the lockout the speed of off the floor all the way to lockout should be roughly the same. So if you're getting to a spot like I used to always do where it's coming off the floor super fast and then slowing down and locking out super slow, you're probably getting out of position and you're not doing yourselves any justice trying to lift the weight that way. So take it slower, make sure you're staying in position, do not lock your knees too early, because if you do, you will be dead, and just keep working on those things and hopefully that'll help. So if you have any questions, make sure you put them below and I will get back to you. Otherwise, thanks for watching as always, and I will see you in the next video.